The film begins amidst several announcements and armed men branding a young woman named Arlen as a bad batch before throwing her into a fenced-off desert. That part of the territory is declared undetermined land that is neither the territory of the United States nor its residents recognized as citizens. After having a light meal, Arlen wanders off under the scorching sun, and after walking for a long time, she finds an abandoned car and decides to rest in it for a while. Soon after, two people pursue her in a golf cart, an unintentionally hilarious scene, and drag her to their makeshift home. Once Arlen gains consciousness, she finds herself tied under a dilapidated, dome-shaped structure of an aircraft ruin. She is injected with a soporific substance, and even before she fully loses consciousness, a heavily built woman starts sawing her arm off. She doesn't stop there and proceeds to chop off Arlen's leg before taking her limbs and cooking them. It is revealed the people in that area are cannibals, and Arlen is not the only victim. The next day, Arlen wakes up with bandaged stubs where her arm and leg once were. She is still chained, which makes it even more difficult for her to move. She devises a plan and creates a mess using her own feces, which leads the cannibal woman to remove her chain and drag her out to get her cleaned. Arlen finds a rebar and hides it under her till the cannibal woman returns with a bucket of water. Once she does, Arlen finds the opportunity and beats the woman to death before dragging herself away from the open. She finds a skateboard and uses it to support her upper body, and she makes her way into the desert, away from the nightmare she just lived through. Arlen is exhausted and on the verge of passing out when she is found by a mute hermit who brings her to a community called Comfort. She never got to meet the man who saved her because he left as soon as the other members of the community took her in. 5 months later, Arlen has settled into the community and wears a prosthetic leg. The community is much different than the one Arlen was initially taken to. Comfort's residents live in peace and have an established system of commerce akin to any other country. Even though Arlen now has a home and lives a comfortable life, given the circumstances, she remains alone and has turned bitter. While looking through a magazine, she cuts the arm from a picture of a model and sticks it on the mirror, and she tries to remember how she looked when she had her arm intact, but in this angle it just looks like she has two right arms. Still carrying the trauma from her encounter with the cannibals, Arlen keeps a loaded pistol with her whenever she ventures out in the desert on her own. On one such occasion, while wandering in the desert, Arlen comes across a wounded cannibal woman and her daughter, Honey, scavenging through the garbage. They are Miami Man's family, a ruthless cannibal living in the cannibal community called The Bridge, from where Arlen had escaped. The woman was scavenging when she hurt herself. Her daughter, Honey, runs to their golf cart to fetch water for her mother when Arlen spots them and decides to confront them. She is enraged at their sight as she remembers what she went through, and even though the woman kept pleading with her to let them go, Arlen shoots the woman dead in front of Honey. Honey doesn't realize what happened and nudges her mother's lifeless body to wake her up as it dawns upon Arlen what she has done. A few moments later, the hermit is passing by when he sees Arlen with Honey following her. Meanwhile, Miami Man worries for his wife and daughter after they don't return for quite some time. Arlen brings Honey to Comfort and buys her a bunny to make her feel better, but Honey keeps her distance and doesn't talk much. Miami Man wanders in the desert on his bike looking for his family when he spots the golf cart his wife had taken. He soon discovers crows feeding on his wife's body and sees the hermit nearby. He calls the hermit and asks if he's seen his daughter, but the hermit signs him to sketch a portrait of him first. Miami Man reluctantly complies, and once he is done, he shows it to the hermit, who keeps the sketch and writes, "Find comfort" on one of Honey's sketches. Miami Man begins his journey across the desert to find his daughter. Meanwhile, the residents of Comfort are enjoying a rave party where Arlen brings Honey along, During the party, the people start screaming and asking for Dream, the person who built Comfort. He is almost a celebrity among the people, and the people hail his words as words of wisdom. Arlen joins the queue of people lined up to get their share of a stimulant. As soon as she takes it, her head starts spinning, experiencing a high, and she loses track of Honey. In the meantime, Honey gets distracted after her bunny runs off and is caught by Dream, who keeps a harem of pregnant women who also work as his bodyguards, and Dream provides them with a life of opulence. Seeing Honey alone, Dream and his pregnant harem take the little girl into their compound. While in a drug-induced state, Arlen is reminded of Honey, and she tries searching for her while bemoaning that she hates this place. She wanders off into the desert after her inner voice tells her to walk away from Comfort. On her way, she bumps into Miami Man, but remains unfazed and even leans on his chest before she passes out. The next morning, she wakes up with a start and tries to remember what happened, as she doesn't know how or when she walked into the middle of the desert. She sees Miami Man with her prosthetic leg, and he shows her a sketch of Honey and questions her if she has seen the kid anywhere, to which Arlen denies knowing anything. But Miami Man doesn't trust her and says he will take her to Comfort, and she has to find his daughter or he will kill Arlen. At that point, Arlen doesn't have much choice and she complies, and as they make their way to Comfort, they encounter another member from the bridge. He offers them a can of gasoline in exchange for Arlen's leg. Miami Man contemplates the offer for a long time, but in the end, hands him Arlen. As the guy picks her up and returns to his bike, Miami Man strikes him with the blades he carries and kills him instantly. Arlen's hatred towards him diminishes a little, and they take the guy's bike to cover the rest of the journey. During their journey, Miami Man takes care of her and they bond. They decide to rest for the night, and Miami Man reveals that he was put in the bad batch because the government discovered he was an illegal immigrant from Cuba. Arlen doesn't reveal her story. However, they are interrupted by a man who shoots Miami Man in the chest. He asks Arlen to accompany him, and Arlen abandons Miami Man, fighting for his life. Arlen is back at Comfort, but is clearly not happy about how she left the man who saved her. So she ventures back to the place Miami Man was shot, but she doesn't find him there. Instead, she finds his sketchbook, keeps it with her, and returns to Comfort. At the same time, the hermit sees the crows cawing over something, and when he goes to see what it is, he finds Khal Brogo barely hanging on to life due to a chest wound. The hermit takes Miami Man and nurses him back to health. He then drops Miami Man back to where he had left his bike and leaves after giving him a souvenir. Still feeling guilty for abandoning Miami Man, Arlen decides to search for Honey. She prints Honey's sketch and starts asking around, but nobody has seen the little girl. Tired from walking around, Arlen sits outside Dream's house when she sees Honey with Dream's other pregnant harems. Arlen decides to visit Dream's home, and she is welcomed there. Once inside, she witnesses Dream's harems working on special pills that Dream describes as Comfort's economy. Dream boasts about what he has done for Comfort and gives a very peculiar eulogy about the feces of the people of Comfort going someplace else so they don't have to deal with it because of the plumbing he has provided. This is his way of alluring Arlen to stay in his mansion and become his harem. He explains that Dream is a metaphor for life, and his idea of Comfort is to give everyone a dream, which explains the pregnant women in his mansion who wear t-shirts reading "The dream is inside me." Arlen suddenly seems inspired and voices her wish to dream like all the women around his house. And, pleased by himself, Dream asks one of his harems to show Arlen to the guest bedroom. Arlen excuses herself to go to the bathroom and takes out the pistol she has been hiding in her prosthetic leg, and as soon as she gets the opportunity, she takes the pregnant woman hostage. Arlen demands that Dream bring the little girl to her, and when she has Honey, she asks for a car and orders her hostage to drive them out of Comfort and into the desert. Once they're outside of the comfort zone, Arlen lets the woman go and takes the driver's seat for the rest of the journey. While driving, Arlen sees a bike approaching them, so she cautiously approaches it and finds it is Miami Man. He is thrilled to reunite with his daughter and takes her in an embrace. Honey runs back to the car to get her bunny, and they prepare to return to the bridge. But Arlen stops them and coaxes them to stay there in the desert with her. Just then, Honey speaks for the first time and asks for spaghetti, as Dream fed her spaghetti in his mansion. Miami Man, clearly more of a protein guy, does what seems plausible in the situation and takes her bunny at a distance while Arlen covers Honey's eyes. As the sun sets, Honey is seen crying as she forces herself to eat the bunny she endeared, and Miami Man rubbing her back to console her. Arlen and Miami Man look at each other and smile, ready to face life together in the desert. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.